Since Hammond's addition to the game, players including ourselves have tried to work out where he's going to be best, what type of compositions, and ultimately, is he going to be good enough to be somewhat meta? Well, we found the strategy that he works very well in, to the point that it almost might be broken, so we wanted to tell you guys what Seagull and Jeff Kaplan said about said strategy, and also give some examples from the games that we've had trying it out. It's an absolute blast, but find out more in today's video. Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. We have done a lot of videos talking about Hammond at the moment, not surprisingly a lot of how he's going to shake up the meta, but the main consensus I suppose that's been on the channel and across the community as a whole since Hammond was revealed, or Wrecking Ball, whatever you want to call him, Hammond's just a lot easier to say. Let's just call a spade a spade. But the general consensus of what people think about Hammond is he's good, he's really fun, no doubt about that, but why would he ever contest D.Va? D.Va is one of those heroes that's always good to play, even in compositions and strategies that don't really match her. You, in your own ranked games, can still play her. Now, Hammond requires a lot more mechanical skill to move around the map, the same amount of tracking skills, if not more, because it's harder to hit people with your weapon than D.Va, for example. And also, you have to have impeccable game sense to make use of the dynamic shields that you have available to you. So the general opinion over the last couple of days, at least from my perspective, is he's good, but he's not as good as D.Va, he's not really going to contest much. But then we tried a few strategies out in our own, like custom lobby games, and also I've had a couple of pro players, including Seagull actually, mention that they're really scared of this composition. The composition being triple tank dive. Now, triple tank dive has never been a thing in the past. There are 6 tanks in the game, 2 of which have movement abilities. Roadhog Zarya, Reinhardt, well, he doesn't have any vertical mobility, and Orisa can't really contest with Winston and D.Va or tag along if they're playing some form of dive comp. Dive comp, of course, meaning your Genjis, Tracers, your flankers all diving onto one target to kill them very quickly. Dive hasn't really been a favourable meta for some time now, ever since Brigitte was added into the game. Now it's about high sustained tank comps. It was quad tank before Brigitte was added into the game with Moira Lucio, but now it's more triple support, Reinhardt Zarya, and a DPS to go along with it. So these are 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. Dive, very fast paced, quite squishy characters overall, even the tanks to an extent. They're very fast, they occupy a lot of space, and they're very aggressive. Then you have the more traditional tanks, which is very closed in, they don't occupy a lot of space, they're very sustainable, they can keep themselves alive for a long time, they can output a lot of damage, but they're very slow. A triple tank manages to ride this line between the 2 strategies very well, and that's why it's so concerning to a lot of people. Here's what Seagull said about it on his day 1 stream when he was playing Wrecking Ball.
So who, in your mind, who do you think Wrecking Ball is going to counter? Who do you think is going to counter Wrecking Ball?
Honestly, I think he's probably going to be really overpowered.
Okay.
And the reason for that is just because so you have a lot of mobile tanks in the game. This is probably the most mobile tank who also does some of the most ridiculous damage. And so when you implement a mobile tank who has burst damage, so Winston Leap, so for example, Winston's in Overwatch League, they land and they punch same time, right? So that's a decent amount of burst damage. Now you've added a second piece of burst damage. So what's going to happen is I can see 3 tank compositions being run with Hammond and Winston and D.Va, and all 3 of them will try and jump the same target together and just one-shot them.
The thing that I really like about this clip is that Jeff Kaplan, the lead designer of the game, is asking Seagull what this new hero that they created is going to do. Seagull basically says that he can be really broken, and I imagine Jeff Kaplan's just sat there quietly being like, oh yeah, fuck, he's right. It's not the thing, you know, like he just had no idea that, like, oh yeah, that's a really big problem, yikes. So, but it's still really interesting to hear both of these people talk about this hero. But the thing that I really want to talk about is how it looks in motion. So I wanted to get a few examples from footage from the games that myself and Miska have had over the weekend. So this is a really good example on Lighthouse of us running triple dive now that it was mentioned to us and going, okay, we're trying to decide a target to jump on, they have a Widowmaker, so somebody calls out to do that, so we dive in, I jump in, slam onto the ground, get the Widow nice and high in the air, and the tanks can easily finish it off. From there, this is where the triple tank comes in. We're very high sustain, we can keep ourselves alive and give the supports on our team a lot of ult charge. We ran with a Zen because of course having that for a dive is amazing, but instead of a Mercy we actually actually ran a Moira. Now, Moira is great for multiple tanks, so it almost enables her in this lineup. Also, Anna could be used here too. There's a lot of heroes, as I said, that will benefit from Hammond actually being somewhat broken in the game, if that makes sense. I don't necessarily think that we're going to end up in a triple tank meta as such. I don't think that's going to be the de facto way to play and make the game really undiverse. But more so, if Hammond becomes more of a staple pick, it will bring heroes like Doomfist, Mei, Anna, Moira, all into the fray, just because of these heroes both work well with him and against him in lineups. So there's just sort of one example of why this dive is really good. Here's another one that Miska actually had against us. So again, it's near enough the same lineup. Miska's running a Doomfist and a Lucio instead with a Mercy, so there's a lot of sustained healing there. Diving in, pushing basically all of our team into the cafe and just tearing apart the Mercy. It's GG from there. That's how good this composition is. The issue with dive, if they can't get their pick quickly, it's kind of a lost fight. If they can't kill at Zen very fast and they end up there a good 5 or 6 seconds, they can easily be taken apart. But then you go from this high mobility dive to more triple tanks sitting on the point. It's a ridiculous strategy, and honestly, it's so good. Very difficult to orchestrate to run that down. But much like dive in itself, it requires a lot of coordination and communication. One thing that I keep messing up on as Hammond, and I see a lot of people doing as well, is just diving in and trying to disrupt on their own. Granted, you can use your shields to keep you alive and give you like double the health that you usually have, but you're not really achieving much. You can even actually get yourself killed by just kind of throwing, in a sense, literally throwing yourself into the backline of the enemy team. But you see my point, like Hammond in your very natural 2-2-2 lineup alongside a Winston or a Reinhardt doesn't quite have the same impact. A lot of people seem to think that Hammond Reinhardt is the way to go, and honestly, I just don't see it. The issue is that if you want to run him with just Winston, Winston does get killed by quite a lot too. So it's kind of like having Brigitte as your second support. You do miss out on a lot of other utility that your team kind of needs in place of a little bit more sustainability, I suppose. You need Winston for the shield, you need D.Va for the mitigating damage. Hammond doesn't bring a lot to his team other than burst damage, so it needs to be alongside these kind of strategies as opposed to just on its own. That's not to say that you can't run Hammond in a 2-2-2 lineup, it's just more it's not going to be as impactful because this triple tank dive lineup is ridiculously strong in the right hands. And there's very little counterplay, at least for the time being, to take it out of the fight. Anti-dive might be good against it, but we'd have to sort of wait and see on that one. But that's basically all I wanted to talk about in this given situation. I feel that the tone that we had in recent videos has been that Hammond isn't very good just across the board. He doesn't have the same impact, but that's quickly becoming very different. This triple tank lineup is going to look very strong, and that's whilst people are still getting used to Hammond. Once they get their head around the tech, the mobility, the movement, and how to effectively get this burst damage out, then it's going to be a whole nother story. Not going to say that this hero is going to break the game like Brigitte or Hanzo, but you want to watch out for this triple tank lineup, and also I do recommend you try it out yourself. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Bit of a breakdown of where Hammond can be really good. But thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.